To be honest, I didn't think it was that serious at the time. But I suppose you could say I humiliated myself, or perhaps I embarrassed him. My name is Brenna, and I am 31 years old. It wasn't until, well, you'll see that I realized how much my husband was hiding inside. Alright, let's start with some backstory. My spouse, Caleb, is a 34-year-old civil engineer. He's the kind of quiet person you'd probably forget was there if you weren't staring at him. I suppose some may describe him as uninteresting, but I always considered him to be trustworthy. He's the kind of guy who will drop everything to fix your car or construct a deck for his mom, even though he's not exactly the life of the party. What's not to love, after all? Then there is me, though. Although I wouldn't describe myself as a social butterfly or anything, I enjoy being out there, meeting new people, sharing my experiences, and making others laugh. I'm a lot, but not in a negative sense, according to Caleb. In any case, I don't believe he means it negatively. The important thing is that his buddies like me. Caleb's pals, whom he has known since high school, invited him to join them for a night out a few weeks ago. They told him to bring me this time. But apparently they do this once a month or something. Strange, isn't it? I don't usually participate in man cave activities, but I reasoned that perhaps they're tired of discussing beer and sports and want to have some real fun. Caleb said, "If you want to come, come." So I went even though he didn't seem really excited about me going along. Let me now introduce you to the scenario. It's in this dive bar, which is okay but not my type. It's like someone's garage, complete with cheap booze, pool tables, and sports memorabilia pinned to the wall. Brenna. Finally we get to see what Caleb's been hiding, exclaimed Caleb's buddies, who were already a couple rounds deep when we arrived. Which made me giggle because, really, what else do you do? It didn't seem serious to me. I understand that Caleb was already wishing he had left me at home, even if he kind of grinned. If they wanted me there, I thought I'd take advantage of the fact that this was his thing. Depending on who you ask, this is where everything went wrong. During our conversation at this sticky table, his pal Ethan begins to make jokes about Caleb's work. It was all lighthearted teasing. But Caleb has always been strangely sensitive about his job. "Oh, Mr. Engineer, can you build me a treehouse?" I appreciate that he takes pride in his work, but occasionally I think he takes himself too seriously. I don't know why, but I just went for it when Ethan asked me what it's like to be married to him. Everyone laughed when I said something like, "Oh, Caleb, he's great, you know. When he's not working late to make sure the lines on the road are straight." Caleb didn't laugh, but I reasoned that it was a joke. Relax. From there, it kind of spiraled. To be honest, I wasn't trying to be cruel, however. I suppose I don't have much of a filter if you get me drunk. I explained to them how Caleb maintains a spreadsheet that details everything he does. The economy is on the verge of collapsing, and we spend money as if we were in 2008. I joked that he would look up gas prices before filling up, as if those 20 cents would make or break us. He previously attempted to persuade me to discontinue my yoga membership. The boys loved it. They were going crazy. I briefly had the impression that I was the main attraction. Caleb, on the other hand, was simply sitting there drinking, his face growing redder by the second. However, he remained silent, so I assumed he was okay. He would tell me if he had a problem, wouldn't he? I felt rather well by the time we arrived home. I believed I had made his buddies laugh and perhaps even relaxed Caleb a bit. But I froze when he turned to face me and said, "What the hell was that?" As soon as the door closed. That's not how he ever speaks to me. Although we have had disagreements in the past, Caleb is not the type to rage or even raise his voice. I was at a loss for words as he simply stood there looking at me as if I had done something that could not be forgiven. I questioned, "What are you talking about? You don't get it, do you?" He simply shook his head before retiring to bed. That's all. Nothing, no fight, no explanation for hours. I sat there mentally reliving the entire night in an attempt to determine what I had done. That was so awful. To be honest, I still don't understand. He might have been ashamed, but I didn't lie about anything. That's exactly how he is, very pragmatic, frugal, and a bit too serious for his own good. Perhaps I shouldn't have told his pals all of that, but they were having a good time and were laughing. That's the point, right? I considered saying I was sorry the following morning, but I asked myself, for what? Speaking the truth, so I didn't. He didn't mention it again, so I assumed it would go away. The problem is that it didn't. The days that followed were uncomfortable. When Caleb did talk to me, it was mostly about business, including groceries, bills, and other practical matters that he loved to stress over. He was simply pouting, I reminded myself. And he will move on, he always did, after all, since Caleb was not the kind to harbor resentment. I assumed that he would recognize that he was exaggerating and that things would return to normal. However, they didn't. Little things were the first. He would arrive home later than normal, claiming to have lengthy meetings or deadlines. His work may be hard at times, so that wasn't unusual. Now, though, it seemed like he was deliberately avoiding me. Even when I questioned him about his buddies, he would shrug and reply, "They're fine." I detested it when he would simply nod or respond with one-word responses like yeah or sure. I had been married to Caleb for 4 years, and we had been together for 6. Who is perfect? We weren't. But this implicit understanding had always been between us. I valued how steady and grounded he was, and he allowed me to be myself, even if it meant I was a little impulsive or theatrical before. But now I felt as though he had put up a barrier between us, and I didn't know how to get over it. The tipping point then arrived. A week or so after the night out, Ethan texted me. He asked if I would like to go out with the gang again. His post included a winking emoji. "We need more of your jokes about Caleb," he added. I grinned, wondering if Caleb was really as angry as I had assumed. Caleb wouldn't mind if Ethan wanted me there, would he? I brought it up to Caleb when he got home that night. Caleb didn't glance up from his plate as he said, "Hey," Ethan texted me. "He wants me to come to the next guys' night." "Yeah, I'm sure he does." I hesitated because of the edge in his voice. He put down his fork and looked at me, his eyes colder than I had ever seen, asking, "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you turned my friends into your audience last time. Why wouldn't they want you back? You made them laugh at my expense." Startled, I blinked. His voice rose as he added, "I wasn't making fun of you. I was just joking around." "Really?" I tightened my chest as I looked at him and said, "Do you even realize how embarrassing that was for me?" "I didn't mean to embarrass you. I thought we were all having fun." "Yeah. Well, maybe next time you can find a way to have fun that doesn't involve making me look like an idiot." That was a blow. "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but you're blowing this way out of proportion. It wasn't that serious." Caleb shook his head and got up, carrying his plate to the sink. He wasn't a yeller, but the fury in his voice was enough to pierce me. "You don't get it, Brina. You never do." I was astounded by that. Even more frustrating than the rage was the way he spoke, as if he had already given up on me ever comprehending. Perhaps he was correct. I didn't understand. In our relationship, Caleb had always been the one who took things easy and was solid and steady. I had never seen him this way before, hurt and aloof. I felt uneasy, as if I had lost control of our relationship. I wanted to make things better, but I had no idea how. It seemed silly to apologize, and to be honest, I didn't believe I had done anything really wrong. However, the tension between us was too great, so I chose to divert my attention, as I often did when I was stuck. Over the next 3 days, I went shopping, had lunch with friends, and spent hours looking through Instagram. I could sense Caleb's dissatisfaction each time he passed the gifts that began to pile up at the door, even though he remained silent about them. Then he dropped the bomb one evening. I was half watching a reality show on the couch when he entered and said, "I think we need to talk." I felt sick to my stomach. "Aren't those words always?" I asked, attempting to sound informal. "About what?" Took a seat across from me, looking grave. "About us." I chuckled uncomfortably. He replied, "I feel like we're on different pages, and to be honest, I don't." "What about us? Are you aware of any instances where we were on the same one?" That threw me. "What are you discussing?" "We've spent years together." "Yes," he responded in a forceful but composed voice. "And throughout all that time, I've always made an effort to be the responsible one, the steady one, the one who keeps everything from falling apart while you do as you like." I became irritable. "It's unfair. I also contribute." "Do you?" He raised an eyebrow in question. "Since you spend money we don't have and make jokes about me to please my friends, it feels like I'm the one keeping us afloat from where I'm sitting." "That is untrue." With a trembling voice, I snapped, "Caleb, I work hard. This house is run by me." He interjected, raising his voice for the first time. You keep it running. I'm the one who cleans up your mess, both literally and figuratively. Half the time, Brina. And the other half I'm too busy working to even notice the mess you've left behind." Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, but I fought the need to cry. Do you a burden? The quiet was oppressive and he did not immediately respond. At last, he stated, I don't think you take anything seriously, including me, our marriage, or our future. I'm not sure how long I can continue to act as though I'm not bothered by that. I was devastated by that. What are you saying, then, that you wish to depart? With a groan, he combed through his hair. I'm not sure, Brina. But I can't continue to live this way. There must be a change. I secretly knew he wasn't overreacting, but I still wanted to yell and tell him he was being stupid. I had relied on Caleb so much that I had never given it much thought as to how it would feel for him, because he had always been the responsible and dependable one. He appeared to be near his breaking point at this point, but rather than admitting that, I evaded, as I always did. So I'm solely to blame for this. You're flawless. And I'm the one destroying it all. He shook his head, appearing more worn out than irritated. Brina, it's not about assigning blame. The question is whether we can truly create a life together, or if our differences prevent us from doing so for once. I lacked the words to dispute with him and tell him that he was mistaken. Caleb slept on the couch that night, and without saying goodbye, he departed for work the following morning. I wandered around the house all day, mentally reliving our talk over and over. A part of me was afraid, and another part was mad at him for being so cruel and at myself for allowing it to get this far. What if he was telling the truth? Could it be that I had pushed him too far? I wish I could claim that I had a sudden, profound realization of my selfishness and made a commitment to change at that same moment. In actuality, though, I still didn't think I was the issue. I assumed Caleb would ultimately calm down, as he always did. But I felt he was being too theatrical and exaggerating everything. However, things were different this time. Caleb began to distance himself more and more over the course of the following weeks. He ceased sending texts the day he ceased inquiring about my day. He began going out with his pals once more once he arrived home, but he didn't invite me. The worst thing, I had no idea how to fix it. Then I heard him on the phone one evening. He was speaking to someone in the kitchen in that quiet, solemn voice he reserved for when he didn't want me to hear. His statement, I don't think she'll ever change, stood out to me even though I couldn't understand all he said. It was like a kick to the belly. Was I the subject of his remarks? Was he letting his friends know that he was over me? Was he speaking to someone else, or worse? That night, I couldn't sleep since my mind was constantly mulling over the worst case scenarios. I was at my breaking point by the time Caleb went to bed. To whom are you speaking? I blurted out. He gave me a shocked expression. What? I sat up and said, on the phone. To whom are you speaking? He rubbed his temples and moaned. I scowled and said, it was Ethan. Why? Because I wanted someone to talk to, he added in a sad voice. His statement, and I can't talk to you, was more painful than anything else he had said. Why not? Because you don't listen, Brina, he replied, his voice breaking. You never have. Suddenly, the barrier between us seemed enormous. Long after Caleb went to sleep that night, his comments continued to resonate with me. He had said something similar before, but this time, for some reason, it felt different. You don't listen. Perhaps it was the tone of his voice. Or perhaps it was the way he seemed more resigned than angry, as if he had already decided where this was going. The tension between us only increased in the days that followed. Caleb began working more hours and returning home later. He remained aloof while he was at home and hardly talked to me unless it was for a practical reason. I made an effort to pretend that everything was all right by sending him amusing memes during the day and sharing photos of us on Instagram. But nothing seemed to be able to get past the barrier he had put up around himself. Then one night, he asked me to sit down when he got home. I felt sick to my stomach at the expression on his face. With a steady yet gentle tone, he started, I've been thinking a lot, and I think we need to take a break. The word struck me like a freight train. A rest. I said it again in a tremulous voice. What even does that mean? He looked me in the eye and said, it means I need some space. Tears started to form, but I fought them back. I need to figure out if this is what I want, if we what I want. You've simply given up on us. Then, I can't keep doing this, Brina, he replied firmly, but I'm not giving up. His words hurt. But I couldn't help but go on the defensive. I can't keep feeling like I'm the only one trying. You don't think I'm making an effort? How much I do for you and us is beyond your comprehension. With a groan, he combed through his hair. I wanted to fight and tell him he was being unfair, but the expression on his face stopped me. I'm not saying you don't contribute, but it feels like we're always working against each other, not with each other, and I'm exhausted. He was hurt, not only, and I knew in my heart that he had every right to feel that way, he said. I'll stay at Athens for a while, and got to his feet. He abruptly left after saying, we can talk again when we've both had some time to think. The weeks that followed were a blur. I initially told myself that he simply needed to release some pent-up energy and would return in a few days. However, as the days stretched into weeks, I began to see that was more than a passing phase. For the first time, I began to consider the possibility that Caleb might not return at all because he was sincere about his need for solitude. I attempted to contact him by texting and leaving voicemails, but he responded in a brief and aloof manner. On one occasion, I even went to Ethan's house, but Caleb wouldn't let me in. He seemed to be excluding me from his life, and I wasn't sure how to react. Even worse, I couldn't hold him accountable, despite my desire to portray myself as the victim. I couldn't deny my part in driving him away when he tried to express to me how much it hurt. I disregarded his sentiments, made fun of him to please my friends, and took him for granted. I was now paying the price for it. Caleb and I finally got together to speak. He recommended a calm cafe, a spot free from interruptions where we could have an important discussion. My heart hurt as I saw him enter, although he appeared worn out. He exuded a serenity that I hadn't noticed in a while. The words hit me like a kick to the belly, but I pushed myself to remain calm. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he began, once we were seated, and I think it's time for us to go our separate ways. I said in a voice that was almost audible above a whisper. You're sure? He gave a nod. I wanted to protest and plead with him to give us another chance, but I knew in my heart that he was right when he said, I love you, Brina, I always will. But I don't think we bring out the best in each other, and I think we both deserve more than that. Our marriage had devolved into an unending loop of miscommunications, wounded sentiments, and unsaid animosity. I also couldn't deny that we had reached a breaking point, even though I didn't want to lose him. We ultimately decided on a fresh start. I continued to live in the house while Caleb moved out. Despite the sorrow, there was a strange sense of comfort in knowing that we were both free to start again once we divided our assets in an amicable manner. I can see my mistakes when I look back. I didn't take Caleb's feelings seriously until it was too late because I let my impatience and need for attention take precedence over the things that truly mattered. I'm still working things out, even though I wish I could say I've changed and learned my lesson. I just know that I lost a fine man, and I am solely responsible for it.